By now, you'll know my view that you can be any kind of doctor human you choose to be. But with so many options, how do you even begin to choose? Hello, Dr. Humans. Welcome back to the channel and today's video where we are going to be talking about how to choose a career path in medicine. By now, you'll know my view that you can be any kind of doctor human you choose to be. But with so many options, how do you even begin to choose? And until we make that decision, we can feel uncomfortable and uprooted. And so to help you with this, I'm going to give you my top tips to help you tune into yourself and select that future career path. And we're going to do this in 3 sections, diving into your past experiences, your present personality and preferences, and your future self, who is ultimately going to be so grateful for all of these great decisions that you have made. Okay, first of all, tuning into those past experiences. I want you to grab a piece of paper and write down your answer to these questions. Question 1, what was your favorite rotation? Question 2, what was your least favorite rotation? Now, once you have these solid in your mind, I want you to expand on those ideas and write down what you enjoyed most and what you did not enjoy about those rotations. Now, here the key is thinking about the job and medicine itself, as opposed to any annoying characters or personalities or conflicts you may have had along the way. Don't let other people's personalities dictate your dream career. So, thinking about the medicine itself, was it medical or surgical? Was it emergency or subacute? Was it a blended variety of all of the above? Were there young people or old people? So for me, I was always very much aware that I was medical and not surgical. Some of this had to do with the fact that my anatomy knowledge was based on a colouring in book and dissection was never my jam. I'm also very clumsy. But on the other hand, I had more of an aptitude for physiology and pharmacology, which to be honest also lent itself to drawing and colouring, but that's by the by. But in my clinical practice, I am a girl who just loves an issues list, a really long, juicy issues list. So I always felt drawn to medicine rather than surgery. That was a deep knowing that I had since I was a medical student. But equally, there are plenty of medical specialties with a surgical flavour. And so even if you're not having this clear-cut clarity on med versus surg, the good news is that there are so many medical specialties with surgical or interventional flavours. Okay, so now that you've thought about the clinical context, I want you to think about what you enjoy learning about. Now, if you're studying for your physician's exams, this will be easy. You're studying a lot. You're studying a lot of different specialties. So, which of those have you enjoyed learning the most? It was actually really funny. In my study group for the written exam, we all gravitated towards one particular area that seemed to light us up when we were reading about it. And you could really tell during study group what people were vibing with. And eventually we all became that specialty. And asking myself this question of what I enjoy learning about the most really helped me to narrow down to nephrology. So by the time I was applying for specialty training, I was tossing up between geriatrics and renal. Now, geriatrics I loved because I love old people, right? I find them adorable. You give me a ward round with 85 to 100-year-olds and it's like opening a box of puppies, right? They are adorbs. It lights me up. I don't know why. But when I compared reading about geriatric medicine to reading about nephrology, I just found that nephrology was more magnetic to me. And ultimately, there's still lots of geriatric medicine within nephrology because it's such a general specialty. So it seemed like the best of both worlds. So if you're in a situation where you're tossing up between 2 or 3 pathways, tune into what you like to learn about the most, what captivates you, because you will be learning for your entire life. It never ends. It literally never ends. So you might as well be enchanted with the topic. So now write down the specialties you have most enjoyed reading about. There might be one that really stands out, or there might be a massive list, but just get it all down on paper for now. Okay, so once you've decided on the rough vibe, medical, interventional, a mix of both, and you've made a list of topics that you enjoy reading about, it's time to see how this matches up to your personality. So here, I want you to think about your personality and unique traits that interplay with your job as a doctor. So for example, I love learning about hematology. It is so interesting to me. But working on the malignant side of hematology is something that I don't feel built for, right? I find the medicine there very sad. And as a resident, I'd come across cases of young people with small children succumbing to a hematological malignancy. And it became very clear to me that my heart would break every day in hematology, and it just wasn't for me. Contrast this with nephrology. Whilst end-stage renal failure is not good news for anyone, having dialysis and transplant as possible care options was something I found more manageable. And for patients who are reaching end of life, they tended to be in older age groups. And it's a lot easier to accept to me than some of those leukemia and lymphoma cases that I'd seen in very young people in hematology. Now, could I have overcome my initial barrier to hematology? Maybe, right? And I think as doctors, we're able to adjust to all sorts of things that we come across. I wouldn't want you to limit yourself based on things you find challenging, but I do think it's helpful to tune into our natural affinities and comfort levels with things, as they may add data as we make these big life decisions. And another example of how your personality interacts with your clinical practice is whether you like to handle emergencies or non-emergencies, or whether you prefer patient continuity or more of a one and done kind of interaction. None of those are right or wrong. It's just a personal preference. And what about your natural skills, your natural tendencies? These are the kind of things that would be a superpower in one specialty, but kryptonite in another. For example, when I was studying my emergency rotation as an HMO2, my supervisor at the time turned around to me and asked, "So, what do you want to do with your life?" And I said, "Oh, I want to be a physician." And he was like, "Yeah, that's good. That's a good choice for you. You're slow and careful." So clearly he didn't think I was cut out for emergency medicine, but honestly, I knew this to be true anyway, right? When he said slow, he was speaking to my attention to detail. I had the details down. Speed or picking up 5 patients at a time, not so much. I thoroughly enjoyed getting all the details down for the treating team, having a wee think about what was going on. I felt like a physician and I was behaving like a physician, and I was missing the point of what I was supposed to be doing in the emergency department setting. So being described as slow and careful was true. It was very true. These were my natural tendencies. I couldn't help but be thorough. So I want you to think about your natural tendencies, what unique personality traits that you have that would be an asset to one specialty, but not to others. Okay, so now that you have tuned into those aspects of what you enjoy and who you actually are, let's think about future you and the life that you want to live. This is all about the lifestyle. And here I'm talking about lifestyle when you finish your training as opposed to during your training. So for many specialties, you'll have more on-call duties during your advanced training than when you actually become a fully qualified practitioner. Of course, that's not the case for every specialty, and some specialties do feature lots of on-call and sleepless nights when you are a consultant. And so it's a good idea to look at your list of potential specialties and find out what life is like on the other side and see how that aligns with what you see for yourself in future. Okay, so just to recap on where we are up to. We've identified the broad categories of work we enjoy doing. We've made a list of things that we enjoy reading about. We've identified our natural skill set and how these factors serve as superpowers or kryptonite in different clinical settings. We have decided on the lifestyle of our future selves. And of course, once you have narrowed it down, it's always a good idea to try before you buy. Speak to the person who does your rostering and see if you can gain some experience in your specialty of interest. I know that's not always possible, but it's of course a great way to add clarity to our career choices. And I was so glad I did this along the way. So I always thought that I wanted to be a cardiologist. It had always been one of my favorite things to read about at med school. But during my cardiology rotation, it felt like a revolving door of NSTEMIs and STEMIs again and again and again, and consenting for angiograms every day, back to back. And I just realized what a surgical specialty cardiology really is. And it didn't light me up the way that I thought it would. And so I pivoted to renal training, except even then, the experience of renal training itself made me pivot again. When I went into advanced training, I thought I wanted to be a transplant physician. Then, after 3 years of training in transplant centres, I realised I very much dislike chronic sleep deprivation and being woken up in the middle of the night on a continuous basis. It's just not for me. So even when you think you've got it all figured out, the truth is our careers are always in evolution. We are always growing and changing. And in reality, you don't really have to have everything figured out. All we can ever do is take steps based on the best decision we can make at each particular stage. And we always have the option to pivot when we need to. And of course, I haven't even touched on careers that you can have outside of medicine in addition to or instead of your medical career. That is a whole other video. So that was my take on how to choose a career path in medicine. So go ahead, write down all of your ideas and tune into yourself, getting real clarity on what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy on the job, your unique talents that serve you as superpowers, and think about the bigger picture life that you want to live and make sure your specialty of choice aligns with that vision. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this helped you on your path, and I hope to see you again soon. Have a great week. Bye.